We don't serve thugs here. Damon Reeves had just asked for a room when Jessica Martinez slammed the no vacancy sign down. The brass plate struck his coffee cup, sending hot liquid across his gray hoodie and onto the marble floor. "Security!" she yelled. "This man is harassing guests." The Grand Meridian Hotel lobby fell silent. Damon stood motionless as coffee dripped from his clothes. 3 people filmed on their phones. An elderly woman whispered, "Typical." Jessica's eyes never left his worn jeans and scuffed sneakers. She missed the titanium watch. She missed the first-class boarding pass sticking out of his messenger bag. Damon checked his phone. 2:47 p.m. Goldman Sachs' notification glowed on the screen. He looked up at the crystal chandelier, then back at Jessica. Have you ever been so underestimated that the truth would destroy everything they believed? Jessica's voice carried across the marble lobby like a declaration. "Sir, you need to leave immediately. This establishment has standards." She stood behind the mahogany reception desk, deliberately stepping back as if Damon carried some contagious disease. Her blonde hair was pulled into a perfect bun, her navy blazer pressed to perfection. The gold nameplate read, "Jessica Martinez, Guest Relations Manager." "I just need a room for tonight," Damon said quietly, his voice steady despite the growing audience. "Absolutely not." Jessica's words were loud enough for nearby guests to hear clearly. "We cater to a very specific clientele here." A young woman with bright pink hair had pulled out her phone, angling it to capture the interaction. Her screen showed "Live" in red letters. The viewer count climbed 23, 47, 156 people watching in real time. "Is there a problem?" The voice belonged to Trevor Kingston, assistant manager, who approached with the confident stride of someone accustomed to handling situations. His silk tie and Italian leather shoes screamed expensive taste and barely concealed superiority. "This individual is requesting accommodation," Jessica explained, her tone suggesting Damon had asked for something obscene. "I was explaining our policy." Trevor sized up Damon from head to toe. The worn Converse sneakers, the faded jeans with a small tear near the knee, the gray hoodie that had seen better days. His assessment took exactly 3 seconds. "Young man," Trevor said, his voice dripping with condescension, "the Grand Meridian charges $800 per night. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the budget motel 6 blocks down." The digital clock above the concierge desk read 2:49 p.m. Damon reached into his messenger bag, a weathered leather piece that looked like it belonged to a graduate student. His fingers brushed against something metallic. For just a moment, the corner of a platinum American Express Centurion card became visible before disappearing back into the bag. "I can afford your rates," Damon replied calmly. Jessica laughed, a sharp, cutting sound. "Sir, I highly doubt that. The presidential suite alone costs $3,000 per night." Behind them, more phones appeared. The live stream viewer count hit 1,847. Comments flooded the screen faster than anyone could read them. A distinguished man in a charcoal suit, clearly a regular guest based on how staff had greeted him earlier, shook his head disapprovingly. "Unbelievable," he muttered to his companion. "They just let anyone walk in these days." An elderly woman with pearls clutched her designer handbag tighter. "In my day, people knew their place," she whispered, not quite quietly enough. The security guard, Mike Rodriguez, approached slowly. At 6'2" with broad shoulders, he commanded attention. His hand rested casually near his radio. "Is there an issue here?" Mike asked, his eyes fixed on Damon. "No issue at all," Trevor announced. "We were just explaining to this gentleman that we're fully booked." The lie hung in the air like smoke. The digital board behind the desk clearly displayed room availability. Standard rooms available, 47, 2:51 p.m. Damon's phone buzzed. The notification preview showed merger completion. Confirm by 3 p.m. from someone listed as legal team. His thumb hovered over the screen for a moment before he slipped the phone back into his pocket. I have a reservation, Damon said, reaching again into his bag. Impossible, Jessica snapped. I would have seen it in our system. Maybe you should check again. Listen, Trevor stepped closer, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was a reasonable tone. I'm trying to help you here. There are plenty of establishments that would be more suitable. The YMCA has rooms. There's a Motel 6 down. I'm not leaving. The live streamer's eyes widened. Oh, shit, she whispered to her phone. He's not backing down. This is getting intense. Jessica's face flushed red. Security, please escort this individual out before our VIP guests arrive for the charity gala. 3 more staff members had gathered, drawn by the commotion like moths to flame. The head of housekeeping, Maria Santos, watched from near the elevator bank. 2 bellhops whispered to each other by the revolving door. Mike stepped forward. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to... To what? Damon's voice remained perfectly calm, but something in his eyes had shifted. To leave because of how I look? 2:53 p.m. The live stream viewer count hit 4,239. Comments were exploding. This is discrimination. Someone call the news. Get his name. Sue them all. Trevor cleared his throat. This isn't about appearance. This is about appropriateness. The Grand Meridian maintains certain standards. What standards exactly? Damon pulled out his phone again. This time he didn't hide the screen. The Goldman Sachs app was open, showing a portfolio balance that made Trevor's annual salary look like pocket change. But Trevor was too focused on making his point to notice. Standards of dress, behavior, clientele, Trevor continued. We serve Fortune 500 executives, foreign dignitaries, celebrities. You have to understand. I understand perfectly. 2:54 p.m. The elevator chimed, and Patricia Vale, general manager, stepped into the lobby. Her sharp eyes immediately assessed the situation, the crowd, the phones, the tension. At 52, she'd handled her share of public relations nightmares. She walked directly toward the group, her heels clicking against marble with military precision. The countdown had begun. Patricia Vale surveyed the scene with the calculated precision of a general assessing a battlefield. The live stream, the crowd, the phones, all spelling potential disaster for the Grand Meridian's reputation. What seems to be the situation here? Her voice cut through the murmur of whispered conversations and clicking phone cameras. Ms. Vale, Trevor straightened his tie, relieved to have backup. We have an individual who's being persistent about accommodation despite our explanations regarding availability and standards. Patricia's gaze swept over Damon, taking in the coffee stain on his hoodie, the worn sneakers, the messenger bag that looked like it had survived college and several years beyond. Her assessment was swift and, she believed, accurate. I see. She turned to Damon with the kind of smile reserved for difficult customers. Sir, I'm Patricia Vale, general manager. I understand there's been some confusion, but I'm afraid we're fully committed this evening. The digital clock read 2:55 p.m. No confusion, Damon replied. I need a room. I can pay whatever rate you're charging. Sir, Patricia's tone grew firmer. This is a 5-star establishment. Our rooms start at $800 per night. The Imperial Suite is $3,000. Perhaps you'd prefer something more within your budget range? I'll take the Imperial Suite. The lobby fell silent, except for the soft jazz playing through hidden speakers. Even the live streamer stopped whispering commentary to her audience. Jessica's mouth fell open. Sir, you can't possibly afford... Can't what? Damon's voice remained level, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Patricia stepped forward, her patience wearing thin. Young man, I don't know what game you're playing, but this behavior is completely inappropriate for our establishment. Game. The word hung in the air like a challenge. The elderly woman with pearls spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. These people always try to scam their way into places they don't belong, probably using stolen credit cards. The businessman nodded agreement. They always have some scheme. Drug money, most likely. Another guest, a woman in designer clothes, pulled her child closer. Honey, don't stare. People like that can be dangerous. The live stream exploded with activity. Viewer count, 7,643. Comments poured in faster than the eye could follow. Racist hotel. Someone record this. This is insane. Get their names. Call the news. Mike, the security guard, moved closer, his hand now resting on his radio. Ma'am, should I handle this? We can't have this disruption affecting our other guests. Give him one more chance to leave voluntarily, Patricia announced, her voice projecting across the lobby. We prefer to resolve these situations diplomatically before involving authorities. A second security guard appeared from the hotel bar, responding to Mike's silent signal. Now Damon was flanked on both sides. 2:56 p.m. Damon reached into his messenger bag again. This time he pulled out what looked like a business card. Maybe this will clarify things. Trevor glanced at it dismissively without really reading it. Sir, whatever company you work for, this isn't the appropriate way to conduct business. I don't work for a company. The pink-haired live streamer zoomed in with her phone, her voice dropping to an excited whisper. Y'all, something's about to happen. This man is way too calm for someone getting kicked out of a hotel. Like, unnaturally calm. More phones appeared throughout the lobby. A food blogger who'd been reviewing the hotel restaurant started filming. A guest checking in paused mid-conversation with another desk clerk to watch the drama unfold. Even staff members from the hotel restaurant had emerged to witness the spectacle. The crowd was growing. Hotel guests descended from the mezzanine level, drawn by the commotion. Valets from outside peered through the glass doors. The scene was becoming a full-scale public spectacle. Sir? Patricia's voice took on the tone of someone explaining things to a particularly slow child. I'm going to count to 10. If you haven't left by then, we'll be forced to call the police for trespassing. 1. Damon checked his watch, a sleek titanium piece that caught the chandelier light. None of the staff noticed it cost more than their combined monthly salaries. 2. The housekeeping manager, Maria, whispered urgently to a bellhop, Something about this whole thing isn't right. Look at his hands. Those aren't working man's hands. And that watch? 3. Damon's phone buzzed with another notification. This time he glanced at it openly. The preview showed, board meeting ready, conference room secured, awaiting your arrival. 4. Ma'am, one of the bellhops approached Patricia hesitantly. Maybe we should verify his identification before. 5. Patricia held up her hand sharply to silence him. This man is clearly here to cause trouble. The businessman who'd been making snide comments suddenly pulled out his own phone, not to film, but to Google something. His fingers flew across the screen, his expression shifting from smugness to growing confusion as he stared at the search results. 6. The live stream viewer count hit 12,156. Local news stations were starting to pick up the trending hashtags. Grand Meridian discrimination began spreading across social media platforms beyond just the live stream. 7. Damon slowly pulled his phone out again, this time opening what looked like a contact list. He scrolled deliberately to a name that read, Legal Department, Emergency Response Team. His finger hovered over the call button. 8. Trevor wiped sweat from his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. Something about Damon's complete calm was deeply unsettling. Most people would be embarrassed, angry, or defensive by now. But Damon stood like a man who held cards nobody else could see. A news van pulled up outside the hotel. The valet pointed toward the lobby, clearly explaining the situation to the emerging reporter and cameraman. 9. Patricia paused, her finger poised over her phone to dial security backup. For the first time since arriving, genuine doubt crept into her expression. The expensive watch, the unshakable calm, the phone that was clearly top of the line, the way he held himself, not like someone intimidated, but like someone in complete control. The elevator chimed again. More guests emerged, phones already recording before they even understood what they were witnessing. 10. But before Patricia could complete her threat, Damon spoke with quiet authority. I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding here. He reached into his messenger bag one final time, his movements deliberate and unhurried. The entire lobby held its breath, guests, staff, live stream viewers, and the news crew now filming through the windows. 2:58 p.m. You see, Damon continued, his voice carrying clearly across the marble space, I didn't come here as a guest seeking accommodation. His hand emerged from the bag holding a leather portfolio. Expensive leather. The kind used for documents that change lives and fortunes. The businessman who'd been frantically Googling suddenly went completely pale. Oh my God, he whispered to his companion, his voice shaking. I think I know exactly who this is. Patricia's counting had stopped mid-breath. Trevor's smugness evaporated like steam. Jessica's hand trembled as she gripped the marble counter, her knuckles white with tension. I came here, Damon said, placing the leather portfolio on the counter with deliberate precision, to meet my new employees. The silence in the Grand Meridian lobby was deafening. Even the soft jazz had stopped, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. 2:59 p.m. The live stream viewer count hit 18,847. Comments became a blur of capital letters, question marks, and disbelief. The news crew outside pressed closer to the windows, their camera capturing every moment. Damon opened the portfolio with steady hands. Inside, clearly visible to the phones recording from multiple angles, was a thick stack of legal documents. The top page bore an official seal and bold lettering that made several people gasp audibly. Property Acquisition Agreement. Grand Meridian Hotel. Downtown purchase price, $127 million. Buyer, Reeves Hospitality Group completion. Date, September 18th, 2025. Jessica stared at the document upside down, her brain struggling to process what she was seeing. The signature at the bottom was clear and bold. Damon C. Reeves, Chief Executive Officer. That's not possible, Trevor stammered, his voice cracking like a teenager's. Damon lifted his eyes from the documents, meeting Trevor's gaze with calm authority. I'm Damon Reeves. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., I own this hotel, along with 46 other properties across North America. The businessman who'd been Googling grabbed his companion's arm. Jesus Christ, he's telling the truth. Reeves Hospitality Group, they're worth almost $3 billion. He just bought the Meridian chain last month. Patricia's face was drained of all color. She reached for the document with shaking hands, but Damon gently slid it out of her reach. Ms. Vale, isn't it? Damon's voice was conversational, almost friendly. According to your employment file, you've been general manager here for 7 years. Impressive tenure. The live streamer's voice was barely a whisper. Holy shit, y'all. This man just revealed he owns the entire hotel. This is the biggest plot twist I've ever seen live. Maria, the housekeeping manager, crossed herself and whispered in Spanish, Dios mío, we're all going to be fired. Mike, the security guard, had gone completely rigid, his hand dropping from his radio as if it had suddenly caught fire. The second guard looked around desperately, as if searching for an exit that didn't exist. Damon reached into his jacket pocket, a motion that now seemed infinitely more significant, and pulled out his phone. But this time, instead of checking notifications, he opened an app. The screen displayed real-time data, hotel occupancy rates, revenue streams, employee payroll information. Interesting statistics, he mused, holding the phone so the nearest cameras could capture the screen. The Grand Meridian currently employs 347 people. Annual revenue last year was $67.2 million. Not bad, considering the market conditions. Jessica's legs gave out slightly, and she had to grip the counter to remain standing. Mr. Reeves, We had no way of knowing. Had no way of knowing what, Jessica? Damon's tone remained perfectly calm, but there was steel underneath. That I might be someone other than what you assumed based on my appearance? The clock flipped to 3:00 p.m., with a soft electronic chime that seemed to echo like thunder in the silent lobby. Trevor attempted damage control, his voice desperate. Sir, Mr. Reeves, if we had known you were conducting an inspection... An inspection? Damon raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling this? He pulled out a second document from the portfolio. This one was clearly a report of some kind, with charts and data points visible even from a distance. This is actually the third property in my portfolio where I've conducted what we call unannounced service assessments. The results have been illuminating. The elderly woman with pearls, who had been so vocal about these people, was now trying to edge toward the elevator bank, clearly hoping to escape before being identified on camera. But Damon's attention remained fixed on the staff. Jessica, you've been employed here for 2 years. Trevor, 3 years. Patricia, 7 years as mentioned. Mike, you've worked security for 4 years. The fact that he knew their employment histories without consulting any documents sent a chill through every staff member present. In those combined 16 years of experience, has anyone ever explained the company's diversity and inclusion policies? Silence. Has anyone reviewed the federal civil rights laws that govern public accommodations? More silence. Damon opened his phone again, this time to a voice recording app. The red recording indicator was clearly visible to everyone watching. Let me read you a direct quote from just a few minutes ago, he said, his voice carrying across the lobby with courtroom clarity. We don't serve thugs here. That was you, Jessica. Would you like to hear the audio recording? Jessica's face went from pale to gray. Mr. Reeves, I was just... You were just what? Protecting the hotel's reputation? Maintaining standards? His tone remained conversational, which somehow made his words more devastating than any shouting could have been. The live stream had attracted local news attention. Reporters were now setting up outside, and the hotel's main phone line was ringing constantly at the front desk. No one dared answer it. Damon reached into his portfolio one final time, producing what appeared to be a business card. But as he placed it on the counter, it became clear this was no ordinary card. It was platinum, with raised lettering that caught the light. Damon C. Reeves, Chief Executive Officer, Reeves Hospitality Group. Dignity in service, excellence in hospitality. That's our company motto, he explained, tapping the card gently. Dignity in service. I had it printed on every business card, every letterhead, every employee handbook. I wonder if anyone here has actually read it. The pink-haired live streamer was practically vibrating with excitement. Y'all, this is better than any movie! This man just bought a hotel and the staff treated him like garbage without knowing who he was. This is going to break the internet. Patricia finally found her voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. Mr. Reeves? What happens now? Damon looked at his watch again, that expensive titanium timepiece that everyone had missed. Now? He smiled for the first time since entering the hotel. It wasn't a warm smile. Now we have a conversation about the future of this establishment. Damon pulled out his tablet, the screen illuminating with real-time analytics that made several staff members visibly flinch. The data was damning, and he displayed it with the precision of a surgeon wielding a scalpel. "Let's discuss the immediate financial impact of the last 20 minutes, he began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to boardroom presentations that determined million-dollar fates. The tablet screen showed a dashboard with multiple metrics, all trending downward in real time. Live reputation analysis. Grand Meridian Hotel online rating. Drop. 4.2 stars, ongoing. Booking cancellations, $47,000, last 15 minutes. Social media mentions, 12,847, 94% negative sentiment. Projected Q4 revenue loss, $340,000. Jessica stared at the numbers, her face pale as parchment. That can't be accurate. These are live feeds from TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Expedia, and our internal reservation system, Damon explained, turning the tablet so the cameras could capture the devastating data. Your behavior has cost this hotel nearly $50,000 in the time it takes most people to grab lunch. Trevor loosened his tie, sweat beading on his forehead despite the aggressive air conditioning. "Mr. Reeves, surely we can resolve this internally." "Internally?" Damon's eyebrow arched dangerously. "Trevor, you told me to find a Motel 6. You suggested I didn't belong in a 5-star establishment. Which part of that would you like to resolve internally?" The live stream viewer count had exploded to 24,156. News vans were lined up outside like paparazzi at a celebrity scandal. The hotel's main switchboard was flashing with incoming calls, reporters, angry customers, and corporate executives trying to reach anyone in management. Behind the main desk, phones rang incessantly. The young desk clerk, who had remained silent throughout the ordeal, looked paralyzed as call after call went unanswered. The hotel's Twitter account was being bombarded with mentions. Facebook reviews were pouring in by the dozens, each 1-star rating like a nail in the coffin. Damon opened another app, this one displaying legal statutes with the efficiency of a law library database. According to Section 1981 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, he read aloud, his voice carrying like a law professor addressing a lecture hall, all persons shall have the same right to make and enforce contracts as is enjoyed by white citizens. That includes hotel accommodations, Patricia. Patricia's hands shook as she tried to formulate a response. "Mr. Reeves, we never explicitly refused service based on race. Didn't you?" Damon's voice cut through her explanation like a blade. "Jessica called me a thug and announced that we don't serve people like you. Trevor suggested I find accommodation more suitable for my kind. Would you like me to play the audio recordings?" His phone displayed a voice memo app with multiple recordings time-stamped from the last 30 minutes. Each file was labeled with damning clarity. Jessica, discriminatory language. Trevor, economic discrimination. Patricia, threat of police action. The businessman who'd been Googling earlier stepped forward hesitantly, his expensive suit wrinkled from nervousness. "Mr. Reeves, I owe you an apology. I said some terrible things." "You suggested I was using stolen credit cards and drug money," Damon replied without looking at him. "You also implied I was dangerous around children." "Your apology is noted, but this conversation is between me and my employees." The word employees landed like a physical blow. Every staff member present seemed to shrink slightly, the full weight of their situation finally crystallizing. They weren't dealing with an angry customer, they were facing their boss. Damon pulled up another screen, this one showing corporate organizational charts and employment contracts with surgical precision. Patricia Vale, General Manager, annual salary $127,000 plus performance bonuses averaging $18,000 yearly. Trevor Kingston, Assistant Manager, $74,000 plus benefits package worth approximately $22,000. Jessica Martinez, Guest Relations, $48,000 with full healthcare coverage. He looked up from the screen, his gaze sweeping across their faces. These are good salaries. stable positions, benefits packages that include health care, retirement contributions, and performance bonuses. The kind of employment that provides security, builds careers, supports families. The implication hung heavy in the air like smoke from a fire everyone could smell but hadn't yet seen. Now let's discuss the systematic failures that brought us to this moment. Damon's presentation continued with ruthless efficiency. According to HR records, diversity and inclusion training was last conducted 18 months ago. Attendance was optional. Only 37% of management staff completed the program. He displayed attendance records that showed exactly who had skipped the training. Trevor's name was highlighted in red absent from the last 3 sessions. Maria, the housekeeping manager, whispered to her colleague, "Dios mío, we're all getting fired. Every single one of us." Current management demographics, Damon continued, displaying another chart that made the discriminatory patterns undeniable. 0 black employees in supervisory positions. 0 Hispanic employees above assistant manager level. 93% of guest-facing management positions are held by white employees. The numbers were stark, undeniable, and damning when displayed in black and white on the glowing screen. Jessica's voice cracked with desperation. "Mr. Reeves, the hiring process, we don't control corporate hiring policies." "You don't control hiring?" Damon's laugh was devoid of humor. "Jessica, you've been guest relations manager for 2 years. You conduct initial interviews. Trevor, you've participated in hiring decisions for 3 years. You make recommendations. Patricia, you've overseen all personnel decisions for 7 years. You have final approval." He displayed another screen, this one showing hiring statistics that revealed a pattern of systematic exclusion spanning years. Mystery shopper reports from the last 6 months reveal a disturbing trend. His finger traced across data points that told a story of institutional bias. Black guests reporting significantly slower service, requests for additional identification not required of white guests, and what our professional evaluators termed subtle but consistent discriminatory treatment. The reports were damning. Professional evaluators had documented response time differences, service quality variations, and treatment disparities that painted a clear picture of institutional racism. These reports were sent to management monthly. They're sitting in your email inboxes, marked as read but never acted upon. Patricia's face had gone ashen. "Mr. Reeves, we receive so many reports." "You receive exactly 12 mystery shopper evaluations per year. Each one flagged discriminatory patterns. Each one ignored me." The silence was deafening. Even the live stream comments had slowed, viewers too stunned by the systematic revelation of institutional bias to type their usual rapid-fire reactions. Outside, more news vans arrived. Reporters interviewed guests who had witnessed the confrontation. Social media was exploding with commentary, analysis, and calls for accountability. Damon closed the tablet and placed it deliberately on the marble counter, the sound echoing like a gavel in a courtroom. "Here are your options." The formality of his language sent chills through everyone present. This wasn't a discussion. It was a tribunal with real consequences that would reshape lives and careers. Option 1. Immediate resignation with basic severance package, clean departure, neutral references, and we part ways professionally. You walk away with your dignity and financial security intact. Patricia found her voice, though it emerged as barely more than a whisper. And option 2? Option 2, I document this entire incident, forward it to corporate legal, and you face termination for cause. That means no severance, no positive references, potential personal liability and civil rights violations, and industry blacklisting. The weight of those words settled over the lobby like a funeral shroud. Termination for cause would follow them to every future job application. Personal liability could mean lawsuits, legal fees, financial ruin that would haunt them for years. But there's a third option, Damon continued, and for the first time since revealing his identity, his voice softened with something approaching hope. complete corporate restructuring, new policies, mandatory training, diverse hiring initiatives, and systematic monitoring to ensure this never happens again. The live stream audience, now approaching 35,000 viewers, watched in stunned silence as history unfolded in real time. This wasn't just about punishment. It was about transformation on a scale rarely witnessed in corporate America. Trevor grasped at the lifeline like a drowning man. What would that involve exactly? Jessica. Damon turned to the trembling receptionist, his tone measured but not unkind. You'd complete a comprehensive 40-hour diversity and inclusion certification program through the National Hospitality Institute. Probationary status for 6 months, with weekly performance monitoring by an external diversity consultant. You'd also record a public apology video for our social media channels, acknowledging your behavior and demonstrating genuine commitment to change. Jessica's face flushed crimson, but she nodded rapidly. Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. The program includes real-world scenarios, cultural competency training, and ongoing mentorship with diversity professionals from Fortune 500 companies. You'll also participate in community outreach programs to understand the impact of discrimination on local communities. Additionally, you'll complete a 20-page reflective essay on bias, its origins, and your personal growth plan. The specificity of the requirements showed this wasn't a token gesture. It was comprehensive reform designed to create lasting change. Trevor, immediate suspension without pay pending full investigation. When you return, if you return, it will be as a senior associate, not management. Your supervisory responsibilities end today. Mandatory completion of management bias training, conflict resolution certification, and quarterly diversity assessments for 2 full years. Trevor's shoulders sagged under the weight of his demotion, but he managed a defeated nod. I understand, Mr. Reeves. How long is the suspension? 30 days minimum, pending completion of required certifications. Your return depends entirely on demonstrated change, not just completed paperwork. You'll also forfeit this year's performance bonus and any consideration for promotion for 18 months. Patricia, Damon's gaze fixed on the general manager with judicial finality. Immediate termination. You've had 7 years to create an inclusive environment and failed systematically. However, I'll provide standard severance and neutral references if you depart quietly within the next hour. Patricia's voice was barely audible. I accept. When do I need to clear my office? Security will escort you within 30 minutes. Your personal items will be boxed and delivered to your home address by the end of business today. The crowd watched as she removed her hotel badge with shaking hands, placing it on the marble counter like a fallen soldier laying down arms. Her 23-year career in hospitality was effectively over. But Damon wasn't finished with his systematic restructuring of the hotel's entire operational framework. Mike, he addressed the security guard who'd been prepared to physically remove him minutes earlier. Mandatory de-escalation training and implicit bias certification. Your job is to protect all guests, not intimidate those who don't fit someone else's expectations. Mike nodded gratefully, clearly relieved to still have employment. Thank you, Mr. Reeves. I want to do better, sir. The training includes conflict resolution, cultural sensitivity, legal guidelines for public accommodations, and crisis intervention techniques. You'll also shadow community police officers trained in bias-free enforcement and complete a course in hospitality customer service excellence. The comprehensive nature of the training showed Damon's commitment to systemic change rather than superficial fixes. Damon pulled out his phone, placing a call that everyone could hear through the lobby's tense silence. Legal department? Yes, it's Damon. We need immediate implementation of Protocol 7 at the Grand Meridian property. Yes, full staff retraining, policy overhaul, interim management installation, and community partnership establishment, all within 24 hours. As he spoke, his assistant's voice was audible to nearby cameras. "Sir, Keisha Williams from our Atlanta property is en route with the crisis management team. She'll arrive within 3 hours to assume interim general manager duties. The diversity training team is mobilizing from our Chicago facility, and the PR crisis team is already handling media inquiries." "What about the current shift staff?" someone called out from the gathered crowd of employees who had been watching the entire confrontation unfold. "All staff will participate in immediate sensitivity training starting tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. No one works a guest-facing shift until they complete basic bias recognition certification. Night shift staff will begin training tonight. This hotel operates 24/7, and so will our commitment to change." The logistics were staggering, coordinating training for 347 employees across multiple shifts while maintaining hotel operations. Damon ended the call and addressed the crowd that had gathered: staff, guests, live stream viewers, and the nation watching through rapidly spreading news coverage that was now being picked up by major networks. "Ladies and gentlemen, effective immediately, the Grand Meridian Hotel will implement the most comprehensive anti-discrimination policy in the hospitality industry." He pulled out his tablet again, displaying a detailed reform plan that had clearly been prepared well in advance, suggesting this transformation had been planned for months as part of a larger corporate strategy. Immediate policy changes. Mandatory unconscious bias training every 90 days, not annually. Anonymous discrimination reporting system with 24 hours response guarantee. Diverse hiring requirements. Management must reflect local community demographics within 18 months. AI-powered service quality monitoring across all guest interactions. Zero tolerance policy with immediate termination for discriminatory behavior. Monthly mystery shopper evaluations with diverse testing teams. Guest satisfaction surveys, specifically measuring inclusive treatment. Community partnership programs with local civil rights organizations. Every guest interaction will be monitored through our new AI system developed in partnership with MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, Damon explained, his voice carrying across the marble lobby with the authority of someone reshaping an entire industry. Service response times, language patterns, treatment quality, facial expressions, and even tone of voice will be tracked and analyzed for bias indicators. The technology was cutting edge, representing a $2.3 million investment in accountability systems that would be rolled out across all Reeves hospitality properties. The pink-haired live streamer whispered to her audience, which had now grown to over 42,000 viewers. "Y'all, he's not just fixing this hotel, he's revolutionizing how the entire industry handles discrimination. This is bigger than one property. This is systematic change happening live." Damon continued with increasing momentum. "We're partnering with the NAACP, the National Urban League, the Anti-Defamation League, the Hispanic Heritage Foundation, and local civil rights organizations to conduct quarterly bias audits. External oversight, not internal self-policing. These partnerships include ongoing consultation, staff training programs, and community engagement initiatives. These partnerships represented ongoing relationships worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, not one-time consultations." Jessica, still pale but showing signs of growing determination, raised her hand tentatively. "Mr. Reeves, what about existing staff who want to be part of the solution?" "Existing staff who demonstrate genuine commitment to change will be given every opportunity to grow with us. We're establishing a comprehensive mentorship program connecting employees with diversity and inclusion experts from major corporations like Google, Microsoft, and Johnson & Johnson. Professional development opportunities, tuition assistance for relevant courses, clear advancement paths for those who embrace our new standards, and leadership training for employees from underrepresented communities." The transformation was happening in real time. Hotel staff who had been paralyzed with fear minutes earlier now showed glimmers of hope and determination, understanding that this moment represented not just accountability, but opportunity. Maria, the housekeeping manager, stepped forward boldly. Sir, I want to be part of making this right. My family came here from El Salvador for opportunities. I don't want anyone else to feel unwelcome in America. Maria, effective immediately, you're promoted to Assistant Operations Manager with an $18,000 salary increase. Your insights about creating an inclusive environment will be invaluable. You'll also lead our new employee resource group and receive leadership training at Cornell's School of Hotel Administration. The livestream comments exploded with approval. Viewers were witnessing not just accountability, but redemption and systematic growth playing out in real time. Damon's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Keisha Williams, incoming general manager, he announced, answering on speaker so everyone could hear the transition of power happening live. Mr. Reeves, I'm pulling into the hotel parking garage now. I've reviewed all situation reports and I'm ready to implement comprehensive reforms immediately. The training team is unloading equipment as we speak. The voice was crisp, professional, and confident, exactly what the moment required. Keisha has 15 years of hospitality experience and has successfully transformed 3 properties with similar challenges, Damon explained to the gathering crowd. She specializes in cultural transformation and inclusive leadership. Under her management, our Atlanta property increased guest satisfaction by 34%, employee retention by 67%, and revenue by 23%. Trevor, despite his demotion, asked hesitantly, "What about the financial impact? The negative publicity we've generated today?" Damon smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from him since entering the hotel hours earlier. The financial impact of doing the right thing is always positive long-term. Within 6 months, we'll prove that inclusive hospitality isn't just morally correct. It's profitable, sustainable, and industry-leading. He displayed projections on his tablet that made everyone lean in. 6-month transformation goals, staff satisfaction increase, 45 to 65% guest satisfaction, improvement 30 to 40%. Diverse clientele growth, 50 to 60% revenue increase, 18 to 25%. Industry recognition, multiple hospitality awards expected. The businessman who had made discriminatory comments earlier approached with genuine humility. "Mr. Reeves, is there anything I can do? I was part of the problem today and I want to be part of the solution. Start by examining your own unconscious biases. Challenge discrimination when you see it. Use your privilege to amplify voices that need to be heard, and consider this a learning experience about the dangers of assumptions." The man nodded solemnly, clearly understanding the weight of his responsibility and the lesson he'd learned. Outside, the crowd of reporters and news crews had grown substantial. The story was no longer just local. It had become a national conversation about discrimination, accountability, corporate responsibility, and the power of systematic change to transform entire industries. The elevator chimed, and Keisha Williams stepped into the lobby, a confident black woman in a sharp navy suit, carrying herself with the authority of someone accustomed to turning around failing operations. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone present. "Mr. Reeves," she said, surveying the scene with expert eyes, "I'm ready to begin the transformation immediately." Damon addressed his final remarks to the cameras, knowing his words would reach millions. Today, the Grand Meridian Hotel became a symbol of transformation. Not because discrimination was exposed, that happens daily across America in hotels, restaurants, retail stores, and countless other businesses, but because we chose systematic change over damage control, education over elimination, growth over punishment, accountability over cover-ups. The live stream viewer count had reached 52,000. Hashtag Grand Meridian Transformation was trending nationally alongside Systemic Change Works and hashtag Accountability in Action. Jessica will keep her job because people deserve second chances when they demonstrate genuine commitment to growth. Maria received a promotion because insight and dedication should be rewarded regardless of someone's position. Mike keeps his position because security should protect everyone equally, without bias or prejudice. He looked around the lobby one final time at the staff who would rebuild this place, the guests who had witnessed history, the cameras capturing every moment of corporate justice in action. This hotel will reopen in 48 hours as a model of inclusive hospitality that will set the standard for our entire industry. Every employee will be certified in bias recognition and cultural competency. Every policy will reflect our unwavering commitment to dignity for all guests. Every interaction will be monitored to ensure equality in service. As he headed toward the elevator with Keisha, Damon paused at the marble counter where his coffee had been spilled hours earlier. Change isn't just possible, it's profitable, it's necessary. And it starts with holding ourselves accountable for being better than we were yesterday. The elevator doors opened, and as they closed behind him, Damon's final words echoed through the lobby. Remember, being underestimated can become your greatest advantage. The person you dismiss today might transform your world tomorrow. The lobby erupted in a mixture of applause, tears, and the rapid clicking of phone cameras capturing the end of one era and the beginning of another. 6 months later, the Grand Meridian Hotel had become the most celebrated transformation story in hospitality history. Jessica completed her certification and became a diversity training coordinator. The hotel's guest satisfaction scores reached record highs. Revenue increased by 22%. Most importantly, it became a place where everyone, regardless of appearance, background, or assumptions, was treated with dignity. The Grand Meridian had just proven that accountability, when handled with wisdom and purpose, doesn't destroy businesses, it transforms them into something better. Have you witnessed discrimination in hotels, restaurants, or retail establishments? Share your story in the comments below. Your voice matters in creating change. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to see that quiet dignity defeats loud prejudice every time. Subscribe to our Black Stories for more accounts of resilience, intelligence, and transformation in the face of bias. Together we can ensure that respect and dignity become the standard, not the exception.